Hey guys, how are you today? It has been a while. Welcome back to another SAPP programming lecture. Today's video marks a comprehensive review of all the different Java concepts. And now I will warn you beforehand, this lecture is going to be a little longer than some of the other ones, but I will guarantee you that it'll be interesting and helpful as we move throughout the course. So let's get started. Now, before we do get started, I'd like to make a quick announcement on behalf of the SAPP team that we were a little MIA before, and I can personally guarantee that we will be much more active this time. The SAPP team has agreed to put this channel back into swing. The guys are ready to make more videos on the Java concepts, and more importantly, our purpose has not changed. We originally started this channel not only to hop on the online coding tutorial wagon, but we believe that we can offer a different standpoint of coding than some of the other guys out there. And that standpoint is that coding doesn't necessarily have to be a skill you need to clinch that internship or a job or whatever. Coding can be a passion, and while that is one of the nerdiest things you will hear, it is true. Now, I'll admit, we aren't professionals, but we for sure plan on accomplishing our goal, and a couple others. If not excellently, then at least acceptably well. So without further ado, let's jump right into this. So to begin with, let's go over Java a little. Java is an object-oriented programming language, and this means that Java uses a variety of different concepts such as encapsulation, inheritance, polymorphism. Now, we definitely have time to reach those concepts. Those are a little advanced, so don't worry too much about that. And Java is something known as a platform-independent language, meaning that it can pretty much run on any computer. It supports Apple, Windows, and Linux operating systems, and you'll see this show up as we go to the downloading process. And the way Java manages to do this is that it uses its own platform. Now, to the average code savvy person, this might not seem like a big deal considering that there are so many advanced apps out there. But when Java was created, this was almost like AI. It was a major breakthrough because the technological world wasn't as developed as it is today, you know. And when Java's creator, his name is James Gosling, when he made this language, he wanted it to be simplistic and easy to learn. So he tried to design it as user-friendly as possible. And that was basically his inspiration for the name. He names his language Java, and for those of you who aren't familiar with this term, Java is slang for a cup of coffee. James Gosling wanted to make learning Java as easy as sipping a cup of coffee, and it's pretty clear that he succeeded in doing this because Java runs on over 1 billion devices today. Okay, so we know that Java is different, and it's got all these features that make it stand out from its kind. But what are the things that let Java accomplish this? The answer to that question is pretty simple. Java has three main components: JVM, JRE, and JDK. So to begin with, let's start off with JVM. What is JVM? Well, JVM stands for Java Virtual Machine, and this is a platform-dependent component, and it basically provides an environment for all the code to be written. It executes all the different Java objects, so you can write your code in here. And the JVM is abstract. And when I say abstract, I don't mean like abstract in a philosophical way, but JVM doesn't physically exist. You can't touch it, but it exists. It's kind of like the cloud. Okay, and next we have JRE. And JRE stands for a Java Runtime Environment. And this is comprised of JVM plus API. Now, the API is known as Application Programming Interface, and this is basically nothing but a bunch of different libraries of code. It's huge, and it basically has all the different code necessary for someone to write a good Java program. Now, this one's also platform dependent, meaning that, you know, you need a specific Mac or Windows operating system to run it on, but the reason it is platform dependent is because it uses JVM, and because JVM is platform dependent, JRE is platform dependent. Now, unlike JVM, which only allows you to write the code, JRE allows you to actually run the code in the device, and the JRE is physical. You can actually touch it. And finally, we have the JDK, which is basically the JRE and a bunch of developmental tools. There we go. So when I say developmental tools, as you can see in like this diagram on the right, we have the compiler and the debugger. And those are basically just tools necessary to create your average Java program. And JDK is necessary to develop all the apps. So let's get to the downloading process now. So the thing about the Java, like the JDK downloading process, is that it's kind of like an application, you know? So you have to go to a website, you have to go to the Oracle website and actually download it. So let's search up JDK download. And when we search it up, it says right here, Java Developmental Kit. So let's go to the download. Takes us straight to the Oracle website. Okay, so we can see here, Oracle JDK download. So you're going to want to press this. And you're going to want to choose the right file size for your OS. This basically what allows Java to be a platform independent language. So we have our Linux packages, our Mac packages, and our Windows packages. So for those of you installing on a Windows operating system, I suggest you use this one, the x64 installer. You don't want it to be a zip file because then you're gonna have to unzip the folder and so on. So just choose this one because it's much easier. Now I'm not going to download it here, but because I already have it downloaded, but the downloading process should be straightforward and you should have no trouble installing it on your device. After you install the JDK, you're going to want to install the JRE. Yeah, it's right down here. So same thing with the JDK. You're going to want to install your designated. You're going to want to install the file designated to your operating system. So I'm going to install the x64.exe. And after you're finished downloading all these components, what you're finally going to want to do is download Eclipse. Now, Eclipse is basically the runtime, not this Eclipse, but Eclipse IDE. There we go. Now, basically what Eclipse is it allows you to write the code, and as you can see in this image they gave us over here, you have all this code written over here. And although Eclipse isn't the only one, though, you can use Spring Boot Frame, you can use IntelliJ, there are a bunch of other ones out there, but Eclipse works best with Java. So I'm gonna download Eclipse here. I already have it downloaded, but it's pretty easy. Here you can download the 64-bit, and like the JDK and JRE, the downloading process should be pretty straightforward. So now that you've downloaded the necessary components, let's go back to our slides over here, and we're gonna start off by learning about data types. Now, what are data types? Data types are nothing but the different types of variables you can substantiate to your Java code. So here we have the data type. In this nice little chart here, we have the primitive and the non-primitive. We have the Boolean, numeric, and then it just charts off into this. So I'm gonna simplify this down a bit. Now, the ones in bold underline, those are the ones that you're going to be using the most. So let's go through each and every one of these. Boolean is just true and false. They're used mainly in if statements. You'll learn about them later. It's like, if true, then do this. And char is basically special characters. Now, byte, short, int, and long, they're all integers, but the thing that separates them from each other is that they each have a different value. So for instance, you see that byte is integers, but it only holds numbers from -128 to 127. And it goes higher up until it reaches 9 quadrillion. And float and double, they're just decimal places. I normally use double, which is 16 places, but some people like using floats, whatever works with you. And finally we have string, and string's just text. You just put on the quotes and then just put in whatever you want, numbers, special characters, words, etc. And array is a group of multiple items, and this topic will be covered because array does play a pretty important role in Java coding. And of course we have many more, such as array lists and hash maps, but we'll learn more about them at a later time. So now let me open up an Eclipse browser. not browser, but an Eclipse. It's going to take some time. It'll give you a directory. Just pick some random directory which you can access and hit enter. Alright, so this is how your Eclipse IDE would look. When you first download it, there's going to be like a little welcome page here, and it'll give you a bunch of different links to how Eclipse works and the history and stuff. We don't really need all that at the moment. So the first thing what we're going to do is we're going to create a project. So we want to go to File, New, and you want to create a Java project. And the project name, you can name it whatever. I'm going to call this SAPP. Now, let me type that up again. You see that displays an error. The name of the new project must be SAPP, but in all lowercase. Now, Java is very picky about its syntax, its uppercases and its lowercases, special characters. So when you're writing your Java code, you're going to want to keep in mind of these, little syntax things, because it's very important. And sometimes when you're writing like 1,000-line code, the only thing that might mess it up is just that one little uppercase letter. So just name your project whatever you want, all lowercase. If you want, you can name it uppercase, like how I have in my projects over here. So we can call it SAPP. Oh, that's weird. It's not allowing me to list the project with an uppercase letter, but that's fine. So we're going to finish. And as we can see, it shows up over here. So SAPP, and if we double click on it, we're going to see our system library and our source folder. We're going to want to double click on the source folder. You have the default package. Click on that again. And I have two classes here already, but let me just show you how to make a new class. So you're going to want to right click on the default package, go to new, and click on class. Okay, so once this class thing shows up, let's name our class. So let's call it, I'm going to call it SAPP1, our first SAPP class. And it gives a warning right here. The use of the default package is discouraged. Just ignore that. That's fine. And the syntax when naming classes is you're always going to want to make the first letter uppercase, unlike how we have here with the projects. And after you name your class, go ahead and click this first box here. This is the main method. And I'll explain just in a moment what that method is. Hit finish. And just creating our class first. Mine showed up right here. Let me just move it real quick. There we go. Okay. So as you can see, we have a couple different things going on here. First, we have the class name. The class name always goes in the beginning, right after the import statements and the package statements, which aren't here right now. But the more important thing here is the main method. So now this method is where you're going to run all of your code. Okay, so now that we have our class set up, let's go back to the slides real quick. I'm going to show you the variable syntax. Okay, so this is the Java variable syntax. So when you're naming your variables, you're going to want to follow a naming convention similar to the one on the right over here. So the first thing that comes up is the data type. Now, if we look at the previous slide, we have all our different data types here. You're going to want to pick one. So let's say int, for example, as it uses in this example, we have our int, and that means it has to be a number. Okay, and the second thing you'd want to do is give your variable a name. So now if you notice with the name, it's in all lowercase letters, and the first letter of the name is lowercase. You'd want to follow a similar naming convention when running your names in Java, and we'll do a couple examples in the Eclipse environment. And the third thing is obviously the equal sign. This sort of hints that your variable has a value, and the fourth thing you'd want to do is your value. Now you'll notice this little semicolon at the end, and this is basically the period to your Java statement. Like when we're writing sentences, we ended with the period, right? So the same idea with Java statements. So let's get to coding. Alright, so we have our class name over here, and this right here is the main method. This is where you're going to write the main parts of your code. So following our naming conventions, we should write a variable. So let's start off by making a string variable. Now, the first thing that's going to come up is an error. This is pretty common. The error is going to go away when you finish your statement. So call it string, and let's just call it name equals to SAPP period. So as you can see with the string, whatever value you want to put, has to be in quotes. And we can print this statement by using a system out expression. So we have system.out.println, open and close parentheses, and in these parentheses we should put our variable. So name. Obviously we have to finish with semicolon. So what's really going on over here? Well, first in line 7 over here, as the Eclipse noted for us, we have our string variable, and we're telling the computer, hey, I'm declaring a variable here. It's called name, and it holds this value of SAPP. And the computer said, okay, and it stored that variable. Okay, and now what we're doing in this one is we're telling the system to print in the console over here. Let's print the name value and whatever value we have for name. And so if this works well, we're going to see SAPP in the console. So let's save it first, and we'll use this little green play button to run. And SAPP. Okay, now let's do a couple more examples. Age. So when we're writing an age, what data type would we probably want to use? If you thought int or byte or something along the lines of an integral data type, then you are right. So let's do int age, and let's just say 12. Now let's print this age. Print ln age semicolon, and let's save and run. We'll get 12. Sounds good. Okay. So same idea with the string thing we have going on over here. We're storing a value. We declared a variable age. We gave that variable a value 12, and we're telling the system to print out the age. Now, before I end this video, I'm going to show you a little shortcut that'll probably help you in your code writing. So instead of writing system.out.println, you're definitely gonna, that's just a little tedious, a little longer, and coders want to pick the shortest way possible, or the easiest way possible when writing their code. So instead of just writing this whole expression, what we can do is capital S, sysout, control space, and that'll give you the whole expression right there. You just have to put your value in the parentheses. So let's put age again, and it should work perfectly fine. There we go. So that was our video on the basics of Java, and in the next video we're going to be covering scanner and how you can use the system out expression to do more with your Java code. This is SAPP Programming. Thanks for watching our video. Make sure to give a like if you liked it, or a dislike if you didn't like it, and if you give a dislike, just tell us why. Thank you. Have a great day.